So how are we going to stay sane in 2026 and stay on track, keep everything on the rails, so to speak? Hi, my name is Jeff. We've never met before. Walk with me. Let's go over to the coffee shop. I do this every weekday morning. I started it as an extension of a show that I host called Java with Jeff, and that show is inside a private community for entrepreneur architects. And I realized that none of the things we talk about on Java with Jeff are specific for architects. It's all about mindsets necessary for growth, personal growth, relationship growth, professional growth. And so I wanted to start the Substack as a way that we can expand the conversation so that we can invite more people into the conversation. So my intent is to discuss this with you. I don't really want this to be a talking head segment, so to speak. I'd love it for you to show up, introduce yourself, ask questions, make comments, add your 2 cents, so to speak, to the conversation at hand. So what I wanted to talk about today is that as I was scrolling through Substack this morning, I came across 2 different articles that didn't necessarily relate to what we talk about, or at least the way that we frame it, Java with Jeff, or here in my sandbox. But the 2 taken together, pieces of the 2 taken together, that combination, that intersection resonated with me. So I want to talk about that. I'm also realizing I probably should have checked the weather because I'm hoping it's not going to start raining on me. I'm not dressed appropriately for rain. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, one post started out, first sentence or 2 was talking about the fact that action is not the same as results. Action is not the same as results. Absolutely, 100%. Over the 3 years of hosting Java with Jeff, I've developed Jeff's steps to growth. All the way through last year, I called it Jeff's 5 steps to growth, and we kept adding to it, adding 3 addendums to it. And so I don't even know. It needs a rebrand. And so I'm just going to call it Jeff's steps to growth right now. And let's run through it real quickly. The first step to growth, if you want to grow, you have to have curiosity. Right? You have to show up curious. What if I did this? What does it mean? What does this mean? What if I stop doing this? How do I? Things like that. You have to be curious about change. What would it be like if? Right? So the first step, growth, is curiosity. That curiosity has to drive you to the point, or has to carry you to the point that you develop belief. I believe that my life would be better. I believe that I can do this. I believe that I could take these steps. And then that belief has to carry you to the point that you're willing, or that you make a decision, that you decide that you are going to do what you need to do in order to grow. So that's the first 3 steps: curiosity, belief, and decision. Now, where this ties into the idea that action doesn't equal results is the next step. The next necessary step for growth is you have to take action. Good morning, Nicole. Without action, there cannot be growth. Does not work that way. You have to take action. You have to lean into discomfort. You have to make change, which comes later in these steps. But action doesn't equal results. That's That's from the first post that I saw this morning. And I think in 2026, I think we need to keep that in mind. If we want to keep, I like to, when I'm working with my clients on strategy and things like that, I like to talk about the idea of getting all the trains on the same tracks, moving in the same direction. I think that has to do with action. It has to do with priorities. It has to do with focus. And I think it's important for us to remember that in this year, because no, action doesn't equal results. We can take all kinds of action in all different kinds of directions. And is it going to help us grow? Not necessarily. We have to be judicious in our expenditure. Never thought I would say that. We have to be judicious in our expenditure of our resources. Action takes resources. It takes time. It takes energy. It takes emotion. It might take money. It takes resources. So we're going to stay sane in 2026. We have to really pay attention to the action that we're taking, and also understand that although we may have to overcome some big things this year, we can't focus on big actions. I am afraid that we are going to be under a continual bombardment this year. I don't know. I'm afraid to even imagine what some of the things we're going to be bombarded with. I'm afraid to think about what they are. I think we're already seeing the economy is wonky. Job situations are wonky. The geopolitical situation is, I don't have a word for it. We're going to be bombarded with things this year. And we're going to have to really pay attention to the fact that we need to show up. We need to take the action. And we need to give ourselves the grace to say, you know what? All I have is this small action. Is it perfect? No, but it's action. Action doesn't equal results. But if we can give ourselves permission to take the baby steps, if we can give ourselves permission to stumble, stay in the analogy of a baby. We usually equate baby step with small steps, but what if it's that barely balanced tiny step, where we half stumble forward? What if we were to give ourselves permission to say, you know what, that's okay. That's okay. If I can do that day after day after day, eventually babies somehow, I don't know if you have kids, but I barely remember my kids. I don't remember. I might remember a few highlights here and there of my kids learning to walk and things. We got one that I don't think he really ever learned to walk. He just ran. But, eventually somehow those kids, through their baby steps, through their stumbling, wobbly, imperfect steps, they learn to walk and they learn to run and they find their way forward. And I think we need to give ourselves permission in 2026 to have that sort of outlook on action. Right? It's not the same thing. Which leads to the second post that talked about the fact that we're creating our inner self, we're creating our consciousness, we're creating who we are and how we show up constantly. And I think intentionality is going to be a key. It's okay to stumble forward with that baby step, especially if you're being intentional about it. This is the direction I need to go. I know I need to take action. I don't have much in the tank, but I am going to intentionally, day after day after day, show up and do this thing. I'm going to intentionally show up day after day after day. Take these baby steps. It's hard. I've got to teach. I've got first day of class today. My graduate students. It's January 6th. We're in our second day of our first full week of the year, and it's already been a wild year. And, I'm tired, mentally and physically tired already. I got to show up for 3 hours of class today and somehow do right by these students. And I think really the only hope that I have is to show up and be present, to show up with curiosity, to show up with clarity of purpose, and just be intentional about moving forward. And I think that's going to be part of the message for the class today as well. Like we're gonna explore for 16 weeks. We're going to explore some concepts, and the way I do it and the things I want to explore are meant to challenge. These students are graduate students. I want to tear down some paradigms. I want to get them thinking and acting in maybe ways they've never seen or heard of, never thought of. Right? I feel like it's my job to challenge the way that they think and the way that they show up. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to show up and be present. I'm going to have to show up with intentionality, and I'm going to have to show up and take action. None of it is going to be monumental. None of it is going to be, what do I want to say, heroic. It's going to be small, intentional, imperfect moves forward. And honestly, I mean, if we were in the middle of a roaring economy in a peaceful world, and all the stars aligning the way that we would want them to, we would still have struggles, right? On some level, the reason that I choose to talk about growth from the point of view of personal growth and relationship growth and professional growth is that I think if we kind of look at our lives through those three lenses, that encompasses a human, that encompasses humanity. Would it be great if we had a roaring economy and a peaceful world and whatever else needs to go into that? Sure, absolutely it would be. Would that solve everything? No. Wouldn't. Would it make things easier? Probably. Maybe we could strive for something day after day beyond baby steps. Maybe we could strive towards bigger steps. But no matter how big the step is, and no matter how stable or wobbly or whatever it is, we still go back to the first post. Action does not equal, it's not the same as results, right? Even if you have smooth sailing, you're taking leaps and bounds and you're running forward. If you're not doing it with focus and intentionality, then what are you doing? Where are you going? Where are you headed? Where are you going to end up? Right? It's really hard. And I felt this a lot the last several weeks of 2025, which is probably natural, but sometimes we do throw things into autopilot. Sometimes we have so little control over our schedules and our activities and things like that it feels like we have no ability to show up with intention, to be intentional about our actions. I think that's absolutely part of the human condition. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do to counter that? I think the answer is simple and hard at the same time. Show up, be intentional as much as we can, be present as much as we can, give what we have, which may not be much. It may be that short, wobbly, imperfect baby step, and that's okay. It's going to be real and honest this year. Yeah, I think if nothing else this year, if we could allow everything that's going on, maybe allow that to, I don't love the idea of forcing us, but allow that to force us to strip away everything and just show up as ourselves, show up with authenticity, show up with intention. Honesty, as you said, real. It is amazing to me how absolutely little, almost nothing, the things that we see and hear, the things that are said, how little of that is actually real, how little of that is actually true. What if that was our counter? We'd show up imperfectly, but real. Intentionally show up day after day. Seems like kind of a weird place to leave it, but I made it to the coffee shop on a tight schedule this morning. Be real. Be honest with yourself. Be intentional. And I'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks for walking with me.